Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about a short demo for a game that I played recently called Tenebris Somnia, which is developed by Saibot Studios and it's a game by Andrew Bourgh. I'm sorry, I probably butchered both of those, with the executive producer being Airdorf, which obviously caught my attention as a Faith fan. And on top of that, it's also published by New Blood Interactive. And all of those things, if you don't know anything about them, should tell you this is going to be a pretty good game. And for the demo that I've played, I can safely say that I think it is pretty fucking good. Now, Tenebris is a game that is set to emulate a survival horror game set on an NES or a Famicom system, which is a super interesting idea. And what makes that idea even more interesting is how they do the jump scares, or like the scares of it. Because you see, in this game, all the cutscenes are live action. So you jump from this 8-bit, 8-dimension survival horror game to a live action, fully produced, almost movie-esque full feature thing, right? And it's so fucking cool. It is one of the coolest transitions I have seen in a game. And I think it is one of those things that fits perfectly in within the horror space. It also controls like an NES. It is a really slow game to play. It reminds me a lot of Faith in certain aspects, and in certain aspects not as much, as the game does have slightly more advanced healing and stuff like that, I feel like. And the combat is also slightly more involved than Faith, where I was like up, down, left, or right? But in this game, you can, attack, slightly to the right, slightly to the left, and so on. There is some survival horror things here. If you're used to play survival horror, a lot of these things will feel fairly familiar to you, in my opinion. The story of Tenebris is actually also kind of interesting. The story itself is nothing to, sort of write home about. It's the way it's presented, in my opinion, that manages to sort of capture me. Because the story itself is your usual breakup story. You're playing as a girlfriend, you go back to the boyfriend's apartment, and oh no, he has been convinced to sell his soul to the devil. Oh, spooky themes and spookiness ensues. And that is the basis for this game. And it is a simple yet effective way to tell the story. Because while yes, the story is there and it's probably important, and it will probably be more important as we go on, where this game really shines is in the way it presents its level and its design. Because while yes, I will fully admit some of the puzzles I spent way too long on, this is a game that does have a lot of puzzle solving. Think about the old Silent Hill games where you'd have to sort of do some puzzle solving and some live sequence, right, while you're, doing all of this sort of scary stuff. And it is a game that does a lot of that. However, it also manages to tell a very basic and understandable story through that. Where I find it interesting, especially with the story where it peaks, is at the end of the demo. That thing captured me slightly, because you see, not just did your boyfriend sell his soul to Satan after you broke up with him, it also becomes sort of a thing where you see replicas of yourself made in this weird wax material type of thing that you don't really know what is, but you also find a way to break it, and the demo just ends there. And I think it's kind of fortunate that there's more of it, because I'd love to play more of Tenebris. I think Tenebris is really cool. It is one of those things that I just really, really like the demo of, just like I liked a lot of the other games Airdorf has made, such as obviously Faith, but also Excuse Me Sir, which I did play the demo for and thought was really cool. I find Tenebris to also be a really, really dope concept that I hope really gets some more development time put in, because a story and the way this is executed is unlike anything I've ever tried. It is the combination of 8-bit NES type of the graphical style of it, and then go into live action for the cutscenes, just to go back in and do some puzzle solving, just to go back into the live action stuff. It is a combination I've not seen being done ever. And I find it to be a really fascinating idea that I really hope gets the time it deserves in the broad daylight. And I think it is a game that will be getting that, because very much like Faith, I think this is going to be something that catches on once it fully releases. Now, I am trying to avoid all of the spoilers and all of that sort of thing, but one thing I do notice when I play these sort of games is when it just doesn't repeat the text. Like, if you interact with an object, usually in most games, what happens is that you get the same sort of dialogue if you interact with the same object. As an example, if you're interacting with a vase, it'll tell you that this is a vase. If you're interacting with another vase, unless it's useful, it'll tell you that this is a vase. However, in Tenebris, there is unique sort of text and dialogue for all of these things. For every object and so on that you interact with, there's something unique that the character says, and I find that to be incredibly cool. It's one of those things where there are small details that really sort of tie everything together, and I think that is one of them. Like, yeah, it serves its purpose by not having all of the things, like, you know, it doesn't have unique dialogue for everything, but if it has unique dialogue for everything, it is a small little detail that makes everything feel that much more believable, and that is despite being a bit. And I think that is an impressive feat to have. Now, I have tried to sort of avoid spoiling too much of the puzzles and of the actual game while I've talked about the overall plot and everything like that. I haven't spoiled the gameplay itself, and I'd like to avoid doing that. I will say the game can at times feel a little bit clunky with some of the combat because it is made to feel like an NES, feel fairly rudimentary. As an example, you get this melee weapon very early on in the demo, and the strategy I developed for virtually dealing with every enemy in the demo, even when there were multiple of them, was I run up, punch them once, run away, run up, punch them once, and so on. That way they usually just wouldn't hit me. And of course, you can also just run away from enemies. I think a fix to that would be to allow them to travel through doors, but I can see how that could also ruin certain moments and so on. And because I have compared Faith and Tenebris as much as I have already, I have to admit I do miss my rotoscoping. However, I think it's nice to see that another game, just like Faith did a few years back, is trying something completely new for the genre, right? Like, it is doing something that I don't think any other game has done with both the live action cutscenes and generally that is being played on an NES and all of these sort of things, and trying to modernize them. I think it is a really cool idea. I really do. And I think the way it's executed so far is so fucking interesting. I really hope we see more of this game in the future. And I really hope I get to cover more of Tenebris, because it has become one of the all-time favorites for me when it comes to horror, just in general. Everything about it is just really fucking cool. And I think Tenebris is positioned to also take some of that love, because goddamn, this game is just everything I could want. It is exactly the most experimental bullshit that I find myself attracted to. I hope to see more games both like this in the future, but also just to see this fully developed. As a game like Excuse Me Sir, which was also super experimental, unfortunately didn't get completed. I do hope that this game does end up, being published and everything, because I think it's such a cool game, and I really hope to see a full release. But that is also about it. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being here. Your time watching this sort of thing that I make and these videos, I genuinely appreciate you, and I appreciate all the support that I've gotten recently. And with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, or night, depending on where you're from, and I will see you later.